Hello, hello! Today I will be bringing a commentary of one of the Russian cruisers that I actually never made a commentary on during the preview time, back when us community contributors got to preview the ships. I never bothered making one for the Chapayev because I felt it was quite similar, honestly, to the Kutuzov, simply a toned down version with better stealth. But it does play quite differently than the Kutuzov. Meaning that you have a more active role. I would say in a straight up like balancing factor, I would say the Kutuzov is a slightly better ship, but the Chapayev is still, without a doubt, an excellent T8 ship. It's an excellent T8 cruiser, and that's mostly because it benefits extremely well from having the 5th Captain perk, the one that reduces your concealment, because combined with that one, you get your concealment down to a nice 10.2 kilometers. That's with camo, Captain perk, and the module. Now the ship has was it 17.3 kilometer range, and thanks to the low caliber guns and the great concealment, you're actually able to stealth fire from 14.2. That's obviously one of the benefits. The other benefit is that obviously since it's T8, it's got radar. And the range of radar is 11.7, but your personal range, concealment range, is 10.2. So what this means is that any time when you push into a point and if you get spotted, you know you can instantly pop radar because there will be a DD within range, within spotting range of your radar. Because the only way they can spot you is if they're within your radar range. So there's a nice bit of synergy going on there. Like you can basically very bravely push into any caps, and if any DD pushes in at the same time, you can instantly force him away with the use of radar. So obviously radar is very, very strong on this ship. Of course, there's the fact that it only lasts 20 seconds, so you really have to make use of it when it does happen. I happen to have Hydro, which is something I've been actually moving away from on this Chapayev. I've been using a lot of Hydro, but I feel like I've not really been needing it. And I would rather use defensive AA because I feel like at this T8 I keep bumping into tons of CVs, and DDs in general don't come that close to me because, well, they know, people by this time have actually learned what radar is, what it means, what it does, so they tend to stay away. And in general, close range, not really going to happen. Firing arcs, as you can see, the firing arcs on the ship are quite fantastic. I'm able to hit an Udaloy from like 14-15 kilometers away, which I can tell you is not easy to do on most ships. Now, of course, it's changing course and making it hard, but in general, the arcs on this ship are quite flat and quite accurate. The dispersion is very, very smooth. So, the guns are strong. Now, of course, they're only 152mm, which means that the HE damage is significantly reduced by armor, which means when you're spamming HE on battleships, you're mostly going to be relying on fire damage instead of HE damage. Armor reduces HE damage, of course, so that's why ships like, for example, the Gearing Atlanta and such, when they shoot HE at battleships, they tend to do little to no damage at all. So overall, a weakness, of course, that the fact that it's T8, where there's a lot of armor around on the battleships already, and the caliber is just small. But on the other hand, it makes it up for it with the excellent range, the excellent arcs. So the guns are honestly, much like the Kutuzov, they're quite balanced. They are, if they didn't have the range and such, then they would feel quite underwhelming. Of course, one can wonder a bit why the Mogami had to go through all this, such a massive nerf, considering the Russian cruisers feel much like the Mogami did pre-nerf. That's a bit of a question. Like, I feel like they nerfed one ship just to replace it with another nationality. But that's VG, and VG works in mysterious ways. Now here's an example, of course, the stealth firing that I was talking about. I'm easily able to land shells upon the stirpits without him spotting me because of the stealth fire range on the ship. And here, of course, also comes the armor reduction that I spoke about. I've landed 17 hits, but my damage is 4k. So very, very little damage per shell. Actually, I think a chunk of that damage is also made on the Udaloy, so the actual damage I've done to battleships is very, very little. The AP on the ship is quite strong, but overall I found going for HE and relying on getting fires to be more reliable. Now, I'm not very impressed by my team. If you happen to look at my team, and 8 and 9 lines, our Yamatos are taking the longest, most cowardly possible route up to C. So they're gonna be out of the game for the majority of the game, being useless, which will make this quite hard. You can also, by the way, see all the hits I've landed on this Yamato. I've still done 0 actual damage to him. He's still at full HP. So there's... Now that's the first volley where I do actual damage to him. So of course that reduction really kicks in here. Now the Dmitry Donskoy is of course not nearly as armored, so I know my HE will do significantly more damage should I actually land some shells on him. The problem is of course with him popping out, he's spotting me for the battleships since he's within my concealment range, so I instantly turn away to angle myself against the Yamato and the Tirpitz, who are obviously already shooting at me. The Chapayev, like most Russian cruisers, is a very, very welcome target for battleships because the thin armor makes it very easy to penetrate from pretty much all angles. Chapayev especially is quite thinly armored. It's no Kirov, but you definitively won't be tanking any hits in it. I'm hoping to get another fire on him so I can switch to AP. But it doesn't look like it will be happening, so I'm already switching to AP now. I might have done it a bit sooner. I didn't expect him to show this much broadside for this long. So I'm always switching to AP now. The Dmitry Donskoy isn't very armored either, so AP is quite strong. Not that strong. Oh well, actually I only hit 2 shells. I haven't done much damage to this Dmitry. At this point I was more focused on my own survival than actually dealing damage to the Dmitry, because that Yamato had me in his sights, and Yamato is especially terrifying for Russian cruisers because some ships at some ranges are actually able to bounce some shells, but really the Russian cruisers against the Yamato, you have, first of all, most of the Russian cruisers have really, really horrid turning circles, as you can see displayed here. I'm asking Yamatos why they're still wasting time. It's 7 minutes have gone of this game and these Yamatos are still irrelevant in our base, so that's a bit frustrating. The enemy is taking quite a bit of a lead, once again, mostly because our Yamatos aren't really in the battle. A bit frustrating, but it happens. It's kind of part of the par for the course, one might say, for these standard battles nowadays. But as I was saying, Yamato is one of the scariest targets. Montana and Yamato are actually both the T-10 battleships. All battleships really are really scary for Russian cruisers because the turning circle is absolutely abysmal. This ship has an 890 meter turning circle. To put that into perspective, a Yamato has a 900 meter turning circle. So you basically have the same turning circle as a Yamato, which is obviously abysmal for a cruiser. The rudder shift upgrade is almost mandatory in this, otherwise you can, like, any dreams of dodging any torps is completely out the window unless you get that upgrade. Hoping to see if I could get some fires started. I haven't really had much luck with fires so far. Some games you just don't seem to be getting any fires at all, and well, it seems like this is one of those games. But whatever, it'll balance out, because I recently posted a Bliskovich game where I had shit tons of fire, so I think this will balance out. That show that even I am at the mercy of the RNG gods. So, forgot a fire, but his repair was still active, so unfortunate. Oh, the Udala is here. I'm gonna switch to him. I managed to secure the cap on Ada. Now, this is where this ship is excellent, and that's killing DDs at fairly long ranges, like 10 kilometers. You easily land shells because of the flat arcs, rapid rate of fire, and the multiple guns makes you extremely potent against DDs, as you can see, as this poor Udala is noticing. I think he already blew his repair. Let's see. I think, yeah, this is one of these DDs who don't run less than, yeah, of course. Jesus. So that makes him obviously a free kill at this point. I honestly don't understand it. It's some sort of recent, or well, I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Like, with the removal of last stand to a lower point, I expected more ships to be using it, but instead less DDs are using it. Like, well, it makes it easier for me to kill them, so I guess that's nice, but I don't know. I find it baffling. The points are once again quite horridly against us, but this ship is a very, very strong ship. Actually, I'm gonna check real quick here. I'm pretty sure that actually my average on this ship is quite exceptionally good for a T8 cruiser, which is what I mean with the potential this ship has. Let's see, my Chapayev, on this Chapayev I have played a total of 14 games. I have won 12, and my average damage is 105,000 on a T8 cruiser. So very for me that's those are impressive stats compared to my other cruisers. So this obviously signifies just how much damage potential this ship has, even though it lacks the smoke of the Kutuzov. Breaking 100k on any cruiser is good, but usually you mostly do it on T10, maybe T9 ones, but doing it on a T8 obviously speaks heavily in favor of the Chapayev. This is definitely a strong cruiser, and probably one of the highlights, honestly, of this line, because you see, once again, I am stealth firing. I'm denying the cap from that New Orleans, since I don't want them to be gaining too many points, since, well, one of our Yamatos who joined the battle already managed to die, I just realized. So this is probably going to be a very hard game. But right now, I'm basically just trying to land. I'm not actually trying to kill this New Orleans, I'm just trying to land some shells on him and basically delay the cap as much as possible. Because, well, I don't want them capping it. I managed to land one more hit, delayed it again. That's good. The more I can delay it, the better, because we are trailing quite a bit by points. The ship kills are fairly even though, so this is by no means a lost game. At first I had considered pushing through on the other side of A, but I actually didn't like the layout of the land there. I actually preferred this land here more, because there's an option for me to duck, even if these ships get closer, so close that I won't be able to stealth fire. There's the option to duck behind this rock and stealth fire, and that's something you have to take into consideration when you're playing light cruisers, thinly armored cruisers that really can't stand up to any sort of fire. You have to use the terrain as much as possible to your advantage. That's obviously something you can learn by playing the Atlanta quite a bit, but I don't actually recommend playing the Atlanta because it's a horrid ship. But that's basically a ship that forces you to constantly use terrain to your advantage, or you will get absolutely wrecked. Now, is he gonna have his guns ready for when he turns for me? Oh shit, he's gonna have his guns ready, isn't he? Oh god, this is going to hurt. I already know this is going to hurt, because Yamato plus a ship Russian cruiser is just a horrid combination. Oh shit, turning. I'm undetected now, but it's too late. Dodging to angle myself, and it's... Ow. Yeah, that was what, 22k HP, and I have 37k HP pool, so I was already wounded, so it knocked me down to 5.5. But it doesn't matter, I got into cover now, and the Chapayev, much like a DD actually, is able to be quite efficient even at low HP, because once again, thanks to its stealth firing capabilities, and of course the fact that I'm playing it very sneakily. I am staying hidden, I'm using the rock to block line of sight, block vision, so I'm able to use this, well, honestly, like a DD. I'm basically just stealth firing all the time. That's how you're supposed to play the ship. This is not a ship that... Like, the Kutuzov excels at you creating its own cover. Basically, you find an optimal position, then you smoke up, and then you use the smoke as cover. The Chapayev, on the other hand, doesn't have a smoke, but so you'll have to improvise and do like I'm doing here. Either shoot from range, or then use the land formations as cover. So basically, you're improvising your own smokes, so to say. At this point, I'm switching to AP, because he's giving me broadside. You can actually do quite nice damage with AP against broadsides. I got Witherer there, as you noticed. As you saw, 3.6k. I got Witherer, of course, that's 60,000 fire damage, so that's always nice. This Yamato isn't very happy. I'm gonna see if I can help this Admiral Hipper a bit. Let's see if I can start harassing this Kutuzov. Okay, first of all, this Hipper is misplaying quite hard. This Hipper is using HE against Kutuzov that is giving him broadside. That's not very intelligent. If this Hipper understood to use AP, this Kutuzov would be getting quite wrecked, but of course, expecting people to know what they're doing is usually a bit of a folly in random battles. This Yamato is always a bit salty, he's complaining about coward fights and stuff, but this Yamato basically hid in his base the entire time until we actually killed him in his base. So, and now he's complaining that his team died, but he was hiding in the base while his team died, so I mean, whose fault is it that his team died when he wasn't there to take any of the damage, tank any of the damage or contribute? Like, I don't understand battleship players like this at all, but I guess they all exist. I probably shouldn't have said anything. Okay, now he's calling me hide and seek champ. I really should just disable my keyboard in this, because I usually see people say the dumbest things and I can't help responding. Like, he's comparing a Yamato's game style to a Chapayev's, which is a stealth light cruiser comparing to the heaviest battleship in the game. I'm literally told him a Chapayev playing to its strength. How shocking. And now, of course, I shouldn't get distracted by that shit. I should just ignore it. This Kutuzov is... I'm not certain what... This Hipper is somehow still firing HE at him. Still haven't understood even though he's giving broadside. Okay, now he's telling me that I can't even play. At this point, I've decided just to ignore him, because he obviously doesn't really know what he's talking about. Switch to AP now, but I think it might have been too late. I didn't want to shoot AP from that range, because AP is... well, usually the problem with AP is you get one good hit and then they'll angle. So I was hoping he would come closer before I would angle. Now I'm using AP simply because, well, I fucked up big time and I beached. So I'm trying to use AP to damage his turrets in the front. I'm hoping to over-penetrate his turrets and damage them, so I will reduce the damage I'm taking. I'm obviously making sure that I'm angled. He should be shooting HE now, because I'm angled so heavily. The armor is thin, but angled this heavily, he will have a hard time hitting me. Switching to HE now, since I obviously have no luck with the turrets. Gonna just basically pump out as much damage on him as I can. He finally understood to switch to HE, but he took too long, and I'll be able to duck into cover behind the mountain. But in a straight up fight, the Kutuzov definitively has an advantage. But of course, you never want to fight a Kutuzov in a straight up fight. That's obviously why I'm fleeing. Well, not only of course because my HP is completely crippled. Now he's asking people to report me. He's obviously, well, he obviously is really salty. That's the only thing I can imagine. That's honestly the only thing that makes sense to me. I think he's just raging. Now, if you notice here, I pop radar to be able to spot this guy on the other side of the wall, to give me an idea of how I should angle my ship, so I know which way he's gonna pop out. Now I know that he's turning away, so I'm angling even sharper and sharper. Shot in a bit too early. I was hoping my shells would go over the mountain. That's fine. He's focusing on the Baltimore that's popping out from the other side. Switching straight to HE since he's angling himself. No point shooting AP at an angled Kutuzov. He's giving me broadside, so I shoot HE, switch back to AP. Obviously I want to use AP if he gives me this much broadside. It's pretty straightforward. He's dead, but I want to kill him before he finishes me off. Nice, I managed to kill him. Honestly, I'm not very satisfied with my AP usage this game. I'm pretty sure I could have used more AP than I did. Probably because I got so few fires in the start, I got a bit annoyed and kept spamming HE just to basically get those fires going. But I'm pretty sure I could have been more efficient than I was in this commentary in using AP. Anyway, the game ended. We actually managed to turn this game around despite everything. I ended up getting 9.7k XP, which is pretty nice since I only have the 1.5x daily win modifier. My base XP is 3.2k. Out of curiosity, where's the Yamato? Oh, he has 1k XP. Okay. Of course got Arsonist and Witherer. These are pretty common, much like on the Kutuzov, to get the very common achievements. AP damage, underwhelming, but the fire damage is pretty standard, like for HE and fire damage is pretty standard what you usually end up getting. And money wise, of course, quite a nice profit. Anyways, as usual, I will be moving over to the modules and captain perks. Right, as usual, I will start with the modules. In this case, as far as I remember, you actually don't gain too much vital things from the hull, so getting the range to be able to do stealth fire better is naturally the first choice. Hull is the second one. I mean, it gives you some nice AA, which is always a nice buff. So go for range first, hull second. Ammunition and consumables wise, I've actually been running a lot of Hydra lately, but I'm actually going to switch back to defensive AA because I feel that at T8 you kind of bump into CVs all the time. At T10 I prefer Hydra usually, but at T8 you bump into all the Lexington Shikakus and the Heroes Rangers, like all these T7 to T9 and even T10 CVs. So I actually feel like defensive AA is better, especially since your AA is actually quite good on this ship. So might as well make use of it and actually get defensive AA. Upgrade wise, a main battery modification, accuracy for said main batteries, damage control modification because I feel like you don't really lose engine or steering anymore. That's pretty much a low tier cruiser thing. Rudder shift because, well, you kind of need it. I mean, you get it to 7.7 with 890 turning circle. Like, that's one of the big negatives really of the ship is this turning circle. It's quite abysmal. Like, that Montana has what? 950? What does the Yamato have? 900? Yeah, and this Chapayev has 890. That gives you some idea of how horrid this turning circle is. You basically have the same turning circle as a Yamato. So not good at all, hence why you get this to improve your turning. And stealth, naturally, as the fifth one. This is pretty much must have on every single cruiser in the game. Captain perks wise, situation awareness, you need to know if you're spotted or not. That's straightforward. Turret traverse, once again by far, none of these others are even worth considering. Here there can be some options between vigilance or superintendent. I personally prefer superintendent right now for the additional radars, but I'm not certain if I will keep it this way. Like, I prefer superintendent because I've been running so much Hydro, but it's not necessary that it will remain this way. Generally, I don't fear DDs too much on the ship because, well, as I said, you got radar, which means DDs in general will stay fairly far away from you, and if they're dumb enough to get close, well, you can wreck them with radar. So, whereas on most other cruisers I would go for vigilance, I actually prefer superintendent on this one. T9, it will have the advantage of also giving you an additional heal, which is obviously fantastic. Fourth perk, Demolition Expert. You want your fire chance. You spam HE with pretty much all Russian cruisers at one time or another, so getting this will benefit you all the way through. And fifth is naturally Concealment. 16th Captain Point, Basics of Survivability, 15% reduction to fire, flooding, all module repair. It's fantastic. And then of course basic firing training. Although I think actually when I spec this I went for basic firing training first, and that's mostly because I used the same captain on the Kutuzov, and I used the Kutuzov in Clan Wars and such, and having that buff to AA is fantastic. So either one of those is honestly good. Once you have a 15-point captain and you got the important things, that's all that really matters. Which one of these you choose first is entirely up to you. If you play a lot with Hydra, when basic firing training isn't going to help you much then. If you have defensive A lot, then you obviously want basic firing training before. That's entirely up to you. Anyway, that was my short and, well, actually not that short, but hopefully sweet Chapayev commentary.